Great. Welcome everyone to our hot powered inspiring interview. You know that every week we introduce you to an incredibly inspiring entrepreneur, speaker, change maker. And today I'm going to introduce you to a great friend of mine. And who is he? Gresham, or we call him Gresh, right? W. Harkless Jr. He's the founder of CBNation and Blue 16 Media. CBNation is a business to business brand focusing on increasing the business success rate by providing visibility and resources, especially for CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners, namely you, right? You're going to love this interview today. And CBNation consists of blogs, podcasts, and videos. And Blue 16 Media is really like, Gresh's a digital marketing agency that provides digital marketing services, as the name is saying, including web design and SEO and small to medium sized businesses and organizations. So to these kind of organizations. So perfect, you're in the perfect place right now to get inspired by Gresh today. Gresh, it's great to have you with us. Welcome.
Monique, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Okay, why don't we get going? We always ask the question because you are one of these amazing entrepreneurs. You always have a smile on your face, and even in your podcast, we can hear the smile on your face. So, what keeps you so vibrant and joyful in the current times? What keeps you in the vortex? What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's definitely a transformational time for everybody. There's been, not ideal things that have happened for a lot of people. But I think for me, like really making sure that I try to stay as true to my mission or my gift, or even while I was put here on this earth, is something that's really been valuable for me. And I almost feel like I'm cheating every day where I get the opportunity to do a podcast or get the opportunity to write a blog post. And that's just probably one of the more exciting things for me because I think a lot of times, and there was a time even for me, I didn't even think that this was going to be possible for me to even do that. So I feel like every day I get the opportunity to do something and do something I feel like is a gift and talent. It just excites me. And who doesn't like to do things that they feel drawn to, they feel passionate about, and get to really double down on. So I feel like I'm cheating every single day, which is probably where a lot of those smiles and that excitement definitely comes from.
I love it. And they say, if you do every day what you love doing most, it feels like you never have to work anymore, right? So, I mean, as
Absolutely.
they say, and wow, that's amazing, Gresh. Podcasting every day, posting every day. I mean, people say, oh my God, how can I create a podcast every week, right? And you do it every day. How do you do it? That's freaking amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do, and I leverage a thing called time blocking a lot. So usually I will do a lot of stuff in advance. So even I'm usually about 30 to 45, maybe even sometimes 60 days in advance of blog posts and video content and podcasts. So that helps out a lot. So like when you're in that zone, in that vortex that you kind of talked about, you really get to create a lot of content. And it's a lot easier to do it once you're in that vortex than, getting outside of the vortex, trying to get back in on a regular basis. So that helps out a ton.
Listen to that, everyone. That's how you do it, right? That's also how I and a lot of people do it to really get, something out there on a regular basis. Amazing. So, Gresh, let's talk about. I mean, you are a master on digital marketing and and other things as well, but especially there. What do you do right now to grow your business? What are some of the hints and tips you can give to all our amazing Hot Power Global Nation members and everyone else that wants some extra inspiration on how to bring their business to a different level now?
Absolutely. And I love that word maestro. I'm definitely gonna have to use that for sure. And for me, I think it's really around understanding kind of like what success is. I have a talk that I usually always give about, being a media company. And it sounds more complex than it really is. At the heart of it, it's really just understanding what success means to you. Understanding exactly what resources you have that are available to you, whether it's money that you want to put into advertising or maybe time that you want to really drill in, and then understanding who you're trying to target. So I think one of the biggest things and kind of the biggest, I don't know if I want to call it mistakes, but I think kind of missing the mark that I see a lot of organizations and businesses do is they try to be everything and do everything when in reality they're trying to target maybe one exact person or one exact group or organization. And I think you don't have to necessarily be everywhere and do everything. The whole, focus is really understanding what are the maybe one or two places that you can be and try to really be the expert at that specific thing. Try to be the person that's answering the questions. If it's in this Facebook group, group, or it might be potentially creating a podcast that's maybe monthly, not necessarily weekly or daily. But the whole idea is really to drill down and figure out how to do those things. And that's what I've really been focused on doing. Like I mentioned, I really try to take the things that I enjoy doing, what I feel like are my gifts and talents, and try to incorporate it into my business to be able to build relationships, build connections, and hopefully even generate some opportunities. And that's really where I feel like, again, I have that smile on my face, is because I feel like I'm in alignment, and I feel like I'm working in joy and in passion. And a lot of times, get an opportunity to be successful from that standpoint.
I love that. And you know what, as you said, I mean, a lot of business do that wrong. They try to actually ride all kinds of different horses, on digital media, and none of them is really a good fit. Or, I mean, they're a little bit here, a little bit there. So, what would you recommend people that are just really saying, oh my God, this is so me, how Gresh is describing me here. How can I actually really narrow that down? How can I make the right choice? Can you give some hints and tips on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest things I would definitely say do is I really say a lot, like I talked about before, it begins and ends with the avatar, the profile of the person that you want to reach and connect. And one of the biggest kind of, and maybe somewhat quickest things that you can do is really talk to your existing clients. Or maybe if you don't have clients, maybe if you're just starting a business, just have a conversation with maybe somebody you enjoy working with. It could be a coworker, it could be somebody you did a volunteer project with, but just have a conversation around that person. Find out the things that they're interested in, find out the things that they're searching for, the things that keep them up at night. Because what happens from there is that's quote unquote data that allows you to really drill down and target. And once you understand this is the person that I'm targeting, you get to say, okay, well, I want to connect with Joe, and Joe spends time on LinkedIn all the time looking for jobs. Maybe your product or service or the thing you have or potentially are launching somehow can connect, or you can communicate with Joe on a regular basis. And I think when we kind of look at all these different platforms for more than what they are, which I believe they're just communication tools, we're kind of doing ourselves a disservice. We're kind of doing a disservice to the people as well too, because they can really use our product and services. So I would say that's probably the absolute biggest thing, is just have a conversation. And then from there, you can really start drilling down into SEO or podcasting and really understand each of the nuances of that. But I believe all of that begins from that avatar, having those conversations, having that quote unquote data, and then working backwards from there.
Yeah, I love that. And it's also what we always say, I mean, start from where you are, right?
Mhm.
And really, ask yourself, who do you want to serve? What impact do you want to make? And, find out where you find these people. And once you're in conversation with them, ask them those questions, right? I mean, where do you hang out? Where do you meet others like you, right? And, again, that's how you get going. I love that. I know that you're a podcasting star as well, right? I mean, daily podcast is amazing, right? So, what would you say to someone that's just thinking about launching their own podcast? Because a lot of people think like, oh my God, you need to know so much. It's so difficult, and all the technical aspects of it. Should I really start it? Is it worth it? What would you say to these kind of questions?
I would say just go ahead and get started. I really believe this is definitely a communication tool and a great opportunity. And even when I have people on my podcast, I usually say, hey, the only difference is I'll hit the record button, but it's like two friends talking at a coffee shop. So if you feel like you can sit down with one of your best friends and have a conversation, the only difference is you're hitting record. And I think one of the things that people sometimes miss about podcasting or just business in general is that it's a marathon and it will evolve over time. So while your podcast and even my podcast, might have been something in the very beginning, it has evolved from where it is. And I think that's one of the beauties of business and entrepreneurship, and obviously podcasting, is you get the opportunity to really sit down, have those deep conversations, or have those super quick, lighthearted conversations, but just be yourself, be authentic to yourself, and really just sit down and have a conversation, hit the record button, and then don't feel like it has to be perfect, because I think I usually say more than anybody else. So my podcasts are never perfect. And I think once you kind of get past that, it allows you to really get into serving, really get into hopefully distributing your gifts for the betterment of the world.
Yeah, I love it. And, even myself, I already about 8 years ago or so now, I started a podcast back then. And, besides, I mean, I grew it quite fast. Within 5, 6 months, I had like 20,000 listeners, which was
Nice.
amazing. Never thought that would be possible. But you know what? It was really like what you were saying. It's like these heart-to-heart conversations. It's the connections you make. Like you and I, we got introduced, and then I mean, we are interviewing each other in a way, right? And it's really these connections we are making. These sometimes lighter conversations that spices up in the moment, and sometimes it's these deep conversations and deeper connections we build makes it all worthwhile. I'm so with you on that, right?
Yeah.
And when I asked you up front, what could people do? You said, hey, you could become your own media company, right? Your own media, company to reach your goals. I know we spoke about podcasting, we spoke about, posting and figuring out who's where on social media. What are a few more points people should consider if they think like, what does it mean building my own media company? What? I don't want to build a media company. I just want to get more visible. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean to you building a media company, and how can people get going and get going and really once they are having something, let's talk about the get going at the beginning. So what are some of the things that you really need to watch out for to build your own media company?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate that question. And I think a lot of it, the reason I use the word media company, and it sounds, very broad and hard to kind of maybe, chew and digest and understand exactly what it means, is because I think the very first thing you can do is figure out, if you're going to be doing it yourself, especially, and you're putting in that sweat equity, what are you passionate about doing? What do you like doing? Do you like writing? Do you like reading? Do you like potentially talking on podcasts or listening to podcasts? Do you like being on video? Really doing that inspection in the very beginning is so important. And that's just, asking yourself, what type of content do I like? What type of content do I like to create? Do I not want to be maybe on video? And answering those questions is really the best place to start. And then I think from there is just kind of experimenting, with different ways that you can do that. Because I think a lot of times people, and especially in the podcasting world, people will get started with podcasts because they hear that they should do a podcast. But many podcasts don't make it to 20 episodes, largely because people aren't really passionate about it. So I think when you start to do that work within first, and then you start to figure out what fits with who I am and what I'm trying to do, then it gives you a lot more power to do that. So it could be a blog, it could be a podcast, it could be just answering questions, in a Facebook group, or maybe, answering and commenting on blog posts. But you have a lot of opportunities at your disposal. It's just not trying to do everything, but staying true to yourself, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah, so the most important is, and I mean, I see that again, we're so aligned with things. You said, hey, it's such a powerful question to ask. What do you like doing, right? You
Mm-hmm.
like to write posts, right? Or write articles, or, write, whatever you can write, a little paper or something. And, if it's speaking, or, if you like to be a host, I mean, podcasting is perfect if you want to interview others, right? But let's bring again, for everyone that's already a little bit more advanced, let's bring our conversation already to a little bit of a higher level. So let's say people have figured out what they want to do. Maybe they have a few things they say. For example, hey, I post regularly. I have a podcast, and whatever else they choose to do. A third one could be like social media posting and then blogging. Let's say they do these three things already and they have a website. So what are some of the things, because a lot of people say, oh, you know what, I tried that, I seem to trigger a little bit of interest, but it's not really helping me to take this next bigger jump to a different level. So what are maybe some suggestions from your side to not just get going, but to really accelerate, getting more visible and attracting the clients you want? What do you do to bring it really to that next level from your personal perspective?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody is definitely, already being active and they're already creating, a tremendous amount of content, then I think the very next thing that you should probably be looking at is the data. So if you haven't installed things like Google Analytics on your website, if you're not looking at, Facebook data, or Instagram, data, and figuring out what's actually working or not, because once you drill down into that information, you can start to see exactly what's performing better, what's not performing better, what copy might be performing better or not. And if you haven't heard of this phrase, it's called A/B testing. One of the things that you can do is, for example, if you have an ad, you basically have two different ads, and you change one variable on that ad so that that you can see what performs better. So it might be the ad copy, it might be the image itself. But when you start to really look at those things, it allows you to further grow your success because you can see straight from the data. So once you get started, especially if you've had an analytics, had analytics installed on your website, Google Analytics, then you really want to start to mine and look into that information and see what's performing, what's not performing, using things like Google Trends so you can see what people are searching for at that specific time. So you can start to really drill down. And even simply, you can go to Google, and if you know exactly what you've created as far as content and you know what people are searching for, type in that question. And then a lot of times you'll see there's an autocomplete of what you're asking for. Often that's because a lot of people are asking and looking for those questions or that data. So it's your opportunity to not just create content and information for the sake of it, but to create really targeted, valuable content because you know people are asking for it. And again, and I would say the same thing is if somebody's starting, you don't have to create an entire blog post if that's not what you're going to do right there, but you can work into that. Maybe it's just a Facebook status update that you're going to do. You're going to see how people are interacting with it. You're going to see if it resonates with people, if people are liking it. And then you say, okay, this performed really better than something else. So let me create this into a blog post, or this blog post performed better. So you really start to look at that data, and that starts to be the measure by which you are garnering your success and hopefully increasing your success from there.
Beautiful. I love it. And you and I are action takers, right? We love to not only learn constantly, we also like to actually implement what we learn right away. And this is why we're also asking a question here every single time. What is one thing people can do right here, right now, today? Let's assume, let's assume they are already out there and they want to look more into their data and to really figure out, what messages connect with their audience, what do they really need and want to learn more about. What is the one thing people can do today to bring everything to the next level?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest thing, that anybody can do to really take things to an entirely different level is really look after you look at that data and you have an idea of exactly what that is, then you start to implement those things right then and right there. Don't be afraid to test out things. I think what we're turning into in this world is just going to be really content driven. So I would say take everything you're doing and times it by 2 at the very least and try to create even more. Try to automate a lot of those things, but be really, really engaging with your content and information, because once you have that data, that's really going to be what's going to, determine what you're going to do in the future. And really pay attention, because I think people forget that data is basically a response to what human activity is. So because people are searching for it, then it's going to show up in Google. So if you're really dialed into the human aspect of business, you really are paying attention, having those conversations with your clients and your potential customers. Not only does that arm you at that specific time, it's also going to allow you to be ahead of the curve. So after you've nailed it and you are having success and you're starting to see that success, have those conversations and figure out what are those next potential trends that people maybe aren't looking for. And as you said, like an action taker, you're always going to test out those things. So don't be afraid to just jump in, kind of test out a lot of those platforms and things that are available that maybe haven't become mainstream as of yet. So I hope that definitely helps out a little bit.
So what is one concrete action they can take today? I mean, they could, for example, just look at their last 10 posts and really look into, how many people clicked it, how many responded to it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what is a concrete thing people could do today?
Yeah, I mean, outside of that, you meant outside of like looking at their data?
Yeah. Like, let's say, let's say people haven't really started to look at data. What is one thing they can do today to start getting a grab on their data?
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't installed Google Analytics, definitely install that. If you have, then go into your report. It's really robust. A lot of times you'll get reports. Usually the reports don't have as much information as far as going to Google Analytics google.com/analytics. And that'll allow you to kind of go into your reports even more, and you can see all that information from there.
I highly recommend you do that. Okay. So again, even if you're not technically savvy, just have a look at, how does it, as Gresh is saying, how does your content perform? How do people actually connect with it? Do a little bit of deep dives in your numbers today. That's what we recommend. Okay. Great. I know. I'm sure a lot of people would love to connect with you. How can they connect with you? Where would they find you?
Absolutely. So I have a website that has, links to everything that I'm working on. It's at iamgresh.com. That's iamgresh.com. And I have links to everything. You can get in contact with me, set up and book a time, whatever, works best for everyone.
Perfect. Good. So thank you so much for giving us a little bit of a glimpse on, how to really become your own media company and how to bring everything to the next level. That was really an inspiring conversation. And it's always great to have you here with us today. If you're not part of our HeartPowered Global Nation yet, please make sure that you join us. Okay, you're gonna also meet Gresh and a lot of other entrepreneurs from all over the globe there to get inspired and connect with each other. Gresh, anything at the end? Any inspiring long thought you want to share with everyone before we round it off?
Yeah, the only additional thing I would say is definitely like we talked about before, just take action. I think most of the people I found out that have been the most successful have been those that have taken action and built up to their success. So don't feel like it has to be perfect for you to start. I always say, my boss used to tell me, don't let the perfect get in the way of the possible. So I try to remind myself of that all the time.
Beautiful. Okay, guys, let's go take action and take Gresh up on his suggestion today. Okay. So thank you, Gresh, for being with us. It was really, I love to talk to you. I could always talk to you forever. And, I hope that also everyone that was here with us today, we hope that you took this one golden nugget away that, is going to get you and your business to the next level. Again, just, as Gresh is saying, let's just take action. Don't just get inspired. Follow our suggestion every single time and take us up on the challenge we are giving you and sharing with you, because we care about you and your success and the impact you make in the world. Because if you make a bigger impact, we make a bigger impact together. So guys, all of you, okay, speak up, scale up, make a bigger difference, make a bigger impact. And Gresh, great to have you with us today. And all of you, have a fabulous day, and we're back soon with another heart-powered, inspiring interview. Keep an eye out on that. Ciao.